The Bachelor GOAT, greatest seasons of all time, continues. And this week it's time to revisit Jojo season. Not that Jojo.
Poor Jojo. What's wrong, little man?
Not that Jojo.
Hey everyone, it's Jojo.
Not that Jojo. This Jojo. Joelle Fletcher, who you might remember from last week's The Bachelor GOAT, where the Bachelor Ben Higgins said, "I love you" to two women, and then dumped Jojo. But then Jojo landed The Bachelorette and got a new chance at finding love. And sorry there's no time for a quippy intro because we have a lot of updates to get to, including a bunch of familiar faces you might recognize in this season as it only aired in 2016, and there are a lot of guys here who've shown up in recent seasons of Bachelor in Paradise and other Bachelor shows. There's Santa Guy, Christian, Vinny, Chad,
you, Chris Harrison,
Grant, Evan, Wells, Daniel, Alex, Derek, Chase, and Robbie, who are all guys from the season who've been in Paradise at some point. Daniel was on the 3rd and 4th season of Paradise, where he strung along Lacey here for TV time and then dropped her like a sack of potatoes at the end of the show. Wells transitioned from season 3 of Bachelor in Paradise to become the Paradise bartender, and is now engaged to Sarah Hyland of Modern Family fame. Sarah's actually a big fan of the show, and during JoJo season and Paradise would often @ Wells on Twitter, which naturally got his attention. Chase was on the most recent season of Paradise, engaging in a relationship with Angela. Derek was on the 4th season of Bachelor in Paradise, where he got engaged to Taylor, and then the 6th season where he started dating Demi, who eventually proposed to her girlfriend from back home, Christian. And of other note is Grant, who got engaged in season 3 of Bachelor in Paradise, and Evan, who also got engaged in season 3 of Paradise to Carly, and the two are now married with children. You might also recognize Luke Pell, who wasn't in Paradise but did make an appearance on Bachelor Winter Games where he strung along Stassi from The Bachelor Sweden and ghosted her once the show was done. So, moral of the story? Never trust a Luke P. Never. So yeah, a lot of real gems this time around. This season was a complete poop emoji when it came to the guys. I mean, there are a few gems in there, but for the most part, poop emoji. I mean, take a look at this wonderful song they all wrote for Jojo.
yeah.
Alright, let me get this straight. I think I got all those lyrics down. Were they Jojo, yeah? Okay, cool. Cool. Not to mention there's Chad. No, not that Chad. Not that Chad. This Chad. Who, don't Google him. Just don't. Stay away from that. All you need to know is abuse allegations, and he's now an amateur adult film star.
What the f***?
Which leads me to the big players of this season, which are Luke, Chase, Robbie, and Jordan. But obviously there's also Chad. Now, the Bachelor GOAT special spends way too much of the episode on just Chad. And yeah, he is one of Bachelor Nation's most infamous villains, but man, that's too much. So because he was a major part of this season, I am going to include Chad in this video, but just for this 15 seconds of fame. Chad ate a raw sweet potato, he ripped Evan's shirt, he threatened Jordan the frontrunner, called Jojo Naggy.
Starting off a little naggy here.
And was compared to Hitler by Daniel.
Let's just pretend you're Hitler. If I'm friends with you.
Let's not pretend I'm Hitler.
Moving on. Now, night one hits, and it's a very bro-chacho feeling kind of group this time around, with a lot of muscle and a few gimmicks, like whatever Chase is doing here, and of course, Santa Claus, who they respectfully cut from a lot of the special, as at the time Santa was going through a rough patch with Mrs. Claus, but now the two are happily back together. Daniel then decides it'd be a great idea to strip and jump into the pool.
Hey, there he goes.
Damn, Daniel.
So yeah, this is the kind of group we're dealing with here. And Daniel, while I was watching the show, seemed to be this guy that had all sorts of red flags around him, but he'd do and say so many stupid things, it'd kind of make you laugh.
She obviously going for personality, and obviously my personality is...
But really, this season is all about one man. Jordan Rodgers, brother of Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. So Jordan receives the first impression rose and really never looks back.
Jordan?
Yes.
Will you accept this role?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Cause this was one of those seasons where there was a frontrunner and that never really changed. Of course, there are a few other men who make strong first impressions, like Chase, who gets one of the early one-on-ones this season in week 3 doing tantric yoga.
Kind of like an angergasm.
And this perfectly encapsulates me looking back at this season. An angergasm. A lot of anger with a little bit of gasm thrown in. And speaking of Wells, here the dudes make such a big deal of him not kissing Jojo till he gets a one-on-one with her in week 5.
You guys gonna kiss today?
That's funny.
Don't forget your chapstick.
Breath mints.
And I'm like, who cares? Sarah Hyland obviously doesn't. She kind of found it endearing. But it speaks to that extra broiness alpha attitude that was present this season. Regardless, Wells gets sent home at the one-on-one where he finally kisses Jojo. And that same week in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Derek is famously dumped on a 2-on-1 opposite Chase and cries in the car ride home to Don't Cry For Me, Argentina.
Why am I crying?
And eventually, it comes down to these 4 men for hometowns: Chase, Luke, Jordan, and Robbie. But when Luke fails to say he's falling in love with Jojo till it's too late,
I want you to know that my heart is yours, and my heart's out there.
Luke goes home leaving Jojo reeling and wondering if she made the wrong decision.
I care so much about you.
I just can't believe I've like squandered it away.
But it wasn't just Jojo who was upset. A lot of Bachelor viewers really liked Luke at the time and wanted him for Bachelor. Now though, after all the player allegations and him stringing along Stassi, poop emoji. Which leaves Chase, Robbie, and Jordan. Now Jordan's the frontrunner and pretty safe here, but something's gotta give between Chase and Robbie, and this time, it's going to be Chase. And here Jojo's not waiting around for the rose ceremony to let him down, she's doing it right in the fantasy suite. And by doing it in the fantasy suite, I mean, dumping him.
I don't know if I'm in the same place as you.
And Chase's story here was that it was a big deal for him to open up about his feelings, especially considering his parents' divorce. But he builds up the courage and tells her he loves her anyways, which Jojo responds to by sending him home.
I got a fantasy suite card and then I get sent home. That's like pull your pants down and kick me in the nuts.
What a poet. So that leaves Robbie and Jordan. Now Robbie you might recognize from his successful appearances as a Ken doll in Toy Story 3. And with Robbie eventually appearing on Bachelor in Paradise, if you didn't already know beforehand, Jojo and Robbie don't work out.
I promise I'll love you till the day I die.
Robbie, hold on. I can't let you get down on one knee.
And when Robbie does go on Paradise, he pairs up with Amanda from Ben Higgins' season and then allegedly cheats on her. So, another guy, another poop emoji. And yeah, Robbie at the final rose ceremony is the first one out of the limo and the one sent packing, leaving Jordan, the first impression rose recipient, as the final pick. And you may say, hey, it's easy to pinpoint him as the pick in hindsight, but think of all the shenanigans that Chad pulled, but it wasn't until he started fighting with Jordan and threatening him that Chad got the boot.
You threatened to find Jordan after this and beat his ass and...
Which is part producer's true, but it seems that the line was crossed when it came to her beau Jordan being threatened. Who, by the way, at the time this show was airing, there were a lot of, mixed feelings about Jordan. Allegations of him being a player flew around, and of course there was the news about Jordan and his parents being estranged from his brother Aaron Rodgers. Which still is a bit of an incomplete story that neither brother has said anything concrete about. So even the final pick had some question marks thrown at him from Bachelor Nation. I told you, this season, poop emoji. But when it's time for the final rose, Jordan tells the world he's not a player and gets down on one knee for this to happen.
Will you marry me?
Oh my god, I
Give me that hand. Give me that hand.
And today, the two are still engaged and planned to have their wedding earlier this month, but had to push it to 2021 due to the pandemic. So, instead, Chris Harrison sent them a cake.
Almost ready to get married.
Yay!
Happy almost wedding day.
And that's it for this recap of JoJo's season of The Bachelorette. I hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to like and subscribe if you did. Next week, we'll be taking a look back at the original seasons of The Bachelor and Bachelorette. So until then, Bachelor Fantake. out.
Jojo, yeah.